Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Burning Hints Football. I'm here with Scott Hinty, and we're going into playoff week. So we had some big moves on the free agent wire, and Nick P is putting all his money that he's been saving up into some free agents. What do you think about the moves he made?
Uh, I think he picked up some good players. Rashad Penny is definitely interesting. It'll be like they've said that they're going to give him more touches, try and give him the lead role, but his problem's always been health. So I'm not sure how he does this week against the Rams, but if he makes it through this week in the postseason, Chicago's a pretty good matchup, and so is Detroit championship weekend. So if he can keep the all the touches, then that'll be a great pickup right there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was a first round pick, and he just never he'd have like two 50-yard touchdown runs every year, but nothing really ever happened off that. But I mean, I like Bourne like decent amount. I feel like he at least produces as a New England receiver. He's not amazing, but for a New England receiver, he's definitely the best. I think outside of tight
Yeah,
ends.
Yeah, Bourne's tricky because of the fact that there's not a lot of passing volume there. And I mean, you saw it in the last game against Buffalo, like they threw the ball like four times, I think, the entire game. So, but
Yeah,
I mean, he
I think
is he is talented in getting big plays. So,
yeah, I think the next two games they're probably gonna have to throw the ball against Indy and Buffalo because those are gonna be tough enough matchups where they didn't have to do it against. I mean, the Buffalo game was just weird.
yeah,
Um,
the weather was crazy.
Not gonna really go to the kicker or whatchamacallit. I love Robbie Anderson's picture. Looks live.
Yeah, I
Um,
picked him up because I needed someone to play with all the COVID stuff. And I know Robbie's been a big disappointment this year, but with DJ Moore being injured, and Robbie having decent target volume last week, especially like coming from both Cam and PJ. I think there's a chance that he can be somewhat relevant.
yeah. Carolina's a mess, but I mean, they got a new office coordinator, and he right away went to let's target Robbie after literally getting basically no targets all year. There was
Yeah.
a little bit mid-season, but he's been a huge disappointment. But now it's looking a little bit better his way, and they're going to need to throw the ball because they're going to be losing against some good teams down the stretch. So let's review last week. That was somewhat not important. Oh my God! Look at me, winning by less
Yeah.
than a point. Was this? We both were on my side, right, for that. So
Yeah, we actually you went perfect 6-0, and then we differed on my game that Kuzi won by point 0.3, and the Connor Lestrange uh, Chris Gregg game,
whoa,
which Chris Gregg decided to just blow up. Helps
Cook.
whenever like Dalvin Cook just went off.
Yeah, you didn't even have Waller in. But yeah,
Yeah,
Cook, man, I played Madison in a couple in one of my other leagues, and it was just like we were talking. We text each other like, "Oh, Cook's probably gonna get hurt," and then he goes for 200 yards. It's just like, okay, hard to
wasn't
predict.
expecting that.
Difficult to predict this fantasy football, but pretty much most everything with the way it's been looking. Let's see if Stein sets a lineup this week for a big playoff push. Um, But we got the playoff bracket, and I kind of like the bracket in the sleeper thing.
Yes.
So we've got Snowball and Herrera, Stein, and Nick P. And then we got a lot of buys, and I got a buy with Kuzi. Do you want to go over the consolation bracket? This is like a bracket for who gets first choice at what pick. Um,
Yeah, I think we should definitely go over that as well.
yeah, but you want to go over which one do you want to go over first?
Let's start with the consolation bracket.
Yeah, okay. You want to start with beats and mats?
Yep, let's go with that.
All right. How do I get into this matchup?
You gotta back out of there and go into the league
The
area.
league. Cool. All right. Let's do Rob and Tony. It looks actually like the projections like a good matchup, and mostly everyone's playing because bye weeks are over, right? Except for
Yep.
Rodrigo. But yeah, it's what do you like? What do you dislike?
I mean, I like the fact that uh, to start, just all of Tony's team should be starting besides Rodrigo, but missing a kicker is not the end of the world. And he actually has some pretty good matchups. I mean, like Chargers for Clyde seems like a pretty good matchup to start off the week. Uh, Cooper Cup is unguardable, and I will say it'll be interesting to see if Jonathan Taylor, coming off the bye, continues his absolute dominance of the season against New England, or if New England can actually shut him down.
Yeah, we'll see if Belichick can do something to slow down the run game. I'm not sure there's all that much they can do. Run games are tough to, but yeah, I mean, this is going to be interesting to see if Tony could actually like go on and potentially win the consolation bracket because he doesn't have to do any roster adjusting outside of injuries. And I mean, if he switches out a kicker, he's solid. But even then, number one running back, number one wide receiver, really good running backs who have been not always playing the whole year. So it's going to be wild. And if you put Gronk in, it'd be even more insane. But maybe Matt's can get a great stack with Brady and Evans against New Orleans. Evans has had his struggles with Lattimore, but that's basically what I think he's going to need to stop Tony from destroying the consolation bracket.
Yeah. Um, I it'll be interesting to, like, what we do if he does win, because I know that we're questioning if he's back in the league next year. So
It's a
whoever comes
discussion
in
for
might
another day.
whoever comes in might get the number one pick, but takes his spot. That'd be pretty great.
Yeah. And then maybe Hines can steal some touches from Taylor if they try to shut down Taylor and they go the other way with Hines. Um, but we'll see. Beckham is finally showing off. I guess it was the Browns. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
That are sort of the issue here. Um, so it'll be interesting to see, what Beckham is down the stretch, even though he's not going to be in the real playoffs. But
Yeah.
who are you siding here?
I'm gonna go with Beats to start his mayhem of the postseason.
I'm with Beats as well. I'm afraid to play him next week, so let's hope. Let's hope McDonald's can pull off the upset for me. So now you're starting your push because you've been starting to build a team the last couple of weeks, trying to make a push for the consolation bracket, and you go against Chris Smart. Russell Wilson's starting to look like his normal self. What do you like? What do you dislike?
Well, I love my matchups with to start with my running backs. Minnesota's defense is just completely falling apart, and Cincinnati's defense is not what it was to start off the year. And Javante Williams is really starting to show why he was so highly touted coming out of college. So I
Yeah,
like that. And then I'm picking on the Jets this week. I have the Miami defense and I'm playing Tua, and I'm hoping that that game's a nice big blowout.
yeah. I think that what do they won like five in a row, so hopefully they can keep that going. Jets very possible to keep going with that. I'm curious. What do you think about Wilson versus Stafford in terms of playing one or the other?
Well, I mean, you have them going up against each other this week. Um, I personally lean towards going with Stafford against Seattle's defense. Seattle's defense has played pretty well against the pass, and they've been giving up more points to the running back position than like passing work. But even with Russell Wilson looking a little bit more normal last week, it was against Houston. So take it with like grain of salt, I guess is kind of where I stand with that. Like he still didn't
Yeah,
throw for 300 yards. So, and you're playing the Rams, and I know Ramsey was out last week, but I mean they did a pretty good job of slowing down Kyler and just Arizona in general last week with pulling out the win. So I would go with Stafford personally.
Yeah, I think Stafford's the safer pick. I mean, Wilson, if you just want to play Wilson because that's your team name, I mean, that's cool. But um, I just think that they're both going to be pretty much around the same pointage, and it's probably safer with Stafford. The one thing you should keep his eye out though for is it's like reports of Hopkins potentially having an injury. He went to an
Yeah.
MRI after Monday night, so that's something to keep an eye on.
I don't think he has to worry about that though, because honestly, um, I think Cole Beasley is a great play this week, especially with Emmanuel Sanders being out rest of the season. And honestly, if I was him right now, if Hopkins does play, I would bench Judy and still put in Mooney. I think Mooney might be his best receiver for this week. And then I think Zach Ertz is a great play this week, especially against Detroit. And honestly, if I was him, I'd probably make a change on defense. Like the Ravens' defense hasn't been great, and Green Bay is going to absolutely just dash them. Like,
Yeah,
especially if Lamar's out, like that game's not even going to be close.
Baltimore is just living off reputation at this point. I mean, they have so many injuries. Their front is okay, but they don't have anyone in the secondary anymore. They lost Marcus Peters in the like in the preseason, and now they don't have Marlon Humphrey. It's gonna be a long night for that team's defensive backs against Devontae Adams and Scantling potentially if you can pop one off. Um,
Hey, I think the Ravens have given up at least like 150-yard touchdown in like 4 of their last 5 games.
yeah, it's a little tough. So do you have a lean towards your side?
Yep, I'm definitely going to take myself on this one.
I'm gonna take Chris Smart. I'm gonna give him some confidence going in, hoping that he can take you down. And I don't have to worry about you in the first overall pick. So we're through the consolation brackets, and we have
Yep.
two good matchups. One, the guy needs to make his lineup changes, which is we're going to start with Stein and Nick P first. But when you calculate the changes he can make, it's going to be within 10 points of projection. So we're looking pretty even matchup. Hopefully, it doesn't start the Saints defense. But what do you like, dislike from each team?
Well, I mean, the biggest question mark right now is does Lamar play? What is Lamar's injury? I think that'll make a big impact on like his team right there. Like if he has to go out and go to the waiver wire for quarterback, I mean, it's not pretty personally. I mean, it's not awful. You have Jimmy G, who I think would be a great play against Atlanta. Um, and then honestly, as disgusting as it sounds, I think playing Big Ben would be a good game as well.
Ooh,
Um, like as
maybe. I mean,
disgusting
he's
as that
looking
sounds.
decent. Yeah.
Um, and you look at those touchdowns: 1 touchdown, 2 touchdown, 3 touchdown. He's coming for a 4 touchdown game right
Yeah, that's true. And I'm on the Steelers this week, just in general against Tennessee. It's hard to know what Tennessee is right now. I don't think Derek Carr is a terrible move, but it was a tough week last week, and Cleveland's defense looked good, but I guess it was against Huntley last week. But I definitely think Jimmy G is the way to go against Atlanta defense. That's not a good defense.
here. Yeah, I think that's probably your safest pick, and it still has a pretty good upside.
And I feel like it's Shanahan versus Atlanta. Maybe he pulls some tricks out, but I don't really think it's a revenge if he left. But um, either way, we still got to make a move potentially with Jamal Williams on COVID. Cool cat in
And
the
then
background there.
the Saints are playing a defense. There are a few defenses that I think you could go out there and play. I think you could go out and grab again very gross. Like the pick I would probably go with that seems the safest would be Philadelphia against Washington. Philadelphia actually has a pretty good defensive schedule for the end of the season. You got Washington Giants, Washington for the playoff schedule. But another one that sounds really gross is Jacksonville. And
Yeah.
I like they play Houston this week and they play the Jets next week, and their defense hasn't been bad. Like when you think back, like they had that really good game earlier in the year against Buffalo. Like they've not been a bad defense as like that's not been the bad part of Jacksonville this year.
When your offense turns the ball over that much, you're in trouble regardless. And I think going against Davis Mills, you have a good chance. But I like Jacksonville. I'm not super confident in Philly's defense. I think maybe Minnesota, but after seeing what Chicago did last week, it's a little scary. I think Pittsburgh's defense against Tennessee is also a good call. We don't know what Tennessee's offense is really right now. I mean, they have Julio Jones. That's all we really know. They put up 20 points against Houston. Um, and I mean, they got TJ Watt, so maybe they can get, a touchdown, a couple turnovers, make it some big plays.
Yeah. So I mean he has plenty of defensive options. Um Hopefully Hawkinson can go for him. If not, I think Gesicki's a fine play, especially against the Jets. And honestly, I'd say he needs to find a way to get Galladay and Williams both out of his lineup somehow. I mean, obviously, you can put Smith in against Washington, so that'll cover one.
I would
But
do stack tight end, just double tight end.
you would stack tight end. With what's on the waiver wire, I think that makes sense. Um, but I definitely would not be playing Galladay at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess if Javonte Williams is back off COVID, you can play him for like the passing work, but Arizona's defense has been pretty solid so far this year. I know last week it didn't hold true, but throughout the year they've been pretty solid. So I'd be nervous playing Hawkinson and Javonte for a very bad Detroit offense and trying to win.
Yeah, I would just go stack tight ends, throw in Smith into the Galladay and call that a day. That's a pretty strong team. Pick up a backup QB just in case of Lamar. I mean, he's got people he can throw out. I mean, Ridley and Lindsey are
Yeah.
not relevant in any way. And I guess Bridgewater is a backup QB, but I feel like there's better people out there. Um,
There's a ton of better options.
yeah, and he's been downward trending a little bit recently. He has not really played well in recent weeks since the Dallas game, so I'm not super high on him. But so we haven't really
Uh,
gone over Nick P's team all that much, but I think it's because we're trying to see if there's a matchup from Stein's side. Do you think anything about Nick P, or do you want to make your pick?
we'll talk about Nick P real quick. He does have some unfair, like, I mean, the Detroit matchup for James Conner is like that's a smash play, but and same with Devonte Adams against Baltimore. But outside of that, like Carolina is not a great matchup to play your quarterback against. And for Josh Allen, like I know he's had I think four QB1 performances on the year, and he's the number two overall on the year. But he's had some real stinkers also throughout the year. Like he had 8 against Jacksonville, 10 against New England, 15 against Indianapolis. Um, so like he's had some pretty bad games. We don't know what Rashad Penny's going to do against the Rams, and Tyler Boyd against Denver could end up not being a great either. So he has some iffy spots on his team, but I think with Devonte Adams going against Baltimore and with James Conner going against Detroit, I think that'll help him greatly, like trying to move through this week, even if he gets some bad plays from other positions.
Yeah, Boyd has just been sort of lost in the shuffle. Every couple weeks, I'm like, huh, maybe this will be the week he breaks out, and it's always just T Higgins, Jamar Chase, T Higgins, Jamar Chase, and mostly Jamar Chase. But yeah, I like that. And then the Carolina's a good point. I think the real idea of whether Josh Allen's going to go off against Carolina is like how much do they feature him in the run game like they did last week. Because the one thing Carolina really doesn't do well is like between the tackles, like interior rushing game. They have a pretty good passing offense, so it's not like I don't think he's gonna be throwing like he did last week. You never know, but
It'll
maybe there's a
also
chance of a dip.
Josh Allen's also banged up. The initial report was
Oh
turf
yeah.
toe, and now they said like it's a foot sprain. So that could slow down Josh Allen's running, which that's a huge like that's a big part of having a quarterback like that. So
Yeah, at least for like this week, just keep it light. Because there was a picture of him. He was at a show he was watching Hamilton in a Buffalo theater, no boot. So that's a positive sign for Josh Allen. But still,
yeah,
you don't really want to waste him against Carolina. I know they need a win, but I think Carolina's a very beatable team for Buffalo, and that franchise knows Carolina. It's basically
no.
a lot of former Carolina guys. So I think we're both leaning towards the same side here.
Yes,
Um,
I think we're both leaning Nick P. Just because he's got some pretty smash matchups, but I do think this one's gonna be really close. So
I think it'd be really close, but I think Kelsey and also Adams could just have one of them is going to have a monster game. That could be a difference, and we'll see what Stein does with his lineups. But now we've got a big matchup: Cat Dog versus Snowball.
yep.
What do you like?
Uh,
What do you dislike?
well, I love Leonard Fournette just like throughout this year. Like he's going to continue to just kind of be like a safety net for Steven at the running back position. Um, and I both these man, this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Uh, just looking at it overall at first glance, I definitely lean towards Alex's team. I think quarterback's going to be a pretty much push. Running backs, I think Steven wins that competition with Leonard Fournette, but Josh Jacobs against Cleveland's not the best matchup. And like when I get down to like wide receivers, I think leans a little bit more towards Alex. So I think you run whenever you look at running back and wide receiver, like they kind of cancel each other out on like the push. Um, Tight end leans towards Steven, flex leads towards Alex. Kickers shouldn't exist in fantasy football, and like defenses are both pretty solid. Like this is going to be a very tough matchup, but I think on just looking at it right now, I'm leaning more towards Alex.
I'm the same way. I just think that his receivers are so much stronger than Snowball's receivers compared to Snowball's running backs to Alex's running backs. They seem pretty similar in the QB area. I feel like one of these guys is going to go off. You think it's probably going to be Rodgers just because Baltimore's
Yeah,
secondaries in the injury report, but you just never know with these things. Like you think and then they throw a touchdown early and they just run a bunch of things up the middle, and if it's not to Dylan, it's to Jones. Alex is shit out of luck. Um, but the one thing to look at is whether so let's say Landry does not get back for COVID. Who would you go from Snowball's bench?
um, I don't know what the current injury status is of Miles Sanders. Off the top of my head, I know he re-injured the ankle, but I'm not sure what his status is for this upcoming week. Um, but just looking at the guys that he has on his bench, I would probably. It's so hard to say Russell Gage would be the safe pick whenever he's put up 2-0, like two just complete gooses of games so far this year. Um, but I think Russell Gage would be the safer option. I know last week 8 points isn't necessarily a good game, but still, like they got to throw the ball, like they got to use the ball somewhere, and he's kind of like the main guy that gets the targets. So
Yeah,
I think I go Russell Gage, and honestly, I think I would go Russell Gage over Landry, even if Landry is off the COVID list.
interesting. You're not buying Cleveland at all here.
I mean, do you just look at his games like throughout the year? Like, if he doesn't get a touchdown, he's basically worthless.
He's been a weird player this year. I think like now that Odell's definitely like out and they're kind of reframing their offense a little bit, he's a little bit better. But the thing with Gage is I think the reason why his points are down, I think Pitts is going to be back. I'm not sure if that's going to make a huge difference. I still think Gage is going to get that, you know, at least 7 thing, which is like solid for just what you need. I don't think you can really touch Allen Robinson.
No, I know it's against Minnesota, which is a good matchup, but I don't think you can go Allen Robinson.
Yeah, after being
Um,
out, it's a huge
like,
risk.
yeah, like what last year, like last week, 6 targets, 2 receptions for 14 yards. Like that'll just completely kill your lineup, especially in a game that's so close. I think you're better off going with Russell. Like Russell Gage will at least get targets down the field. Like whenever you look at his yards, like throughout the year, like minus the games that he could goose you on, like 67, 64, 49, 100, and 64. I also think he has a better chance of ending up in the end zone than Jarvis Landry. Because like the Browns are going to run the ball anytime they're in the red zone, and if it's not going to do that, then they're going to go to a tight end over Jarvis Landry. Like Jarvis Landry just doesn't have the high touchdown ceiling, and I think that's like I don't. I think you're better off going with Gage.
Yeah, Landry's never been a big touchdown guy. He's all about getting the PPR receptions, and that makes a lot of sense that they'll try to go with their running backs, and now especially because they're gonna have both of them at their disposal. You know, you could go Chubb with the run game, you could do Hunt with the run game, or you could do Hunt with the pass game, or even Chubb with the pet. Like, there's so many options you could do. Um, this is a really tough one for me, honestly. Like, I feel like the like looking at the QB and the defense, like both ways, I sort of lean towards Alex. I know the defenses are even, but I feel like Detroit is a much safer team to go against as a defense than Carolina. Um, and then just the matchup of, yeah, you could have a shootout in Kansas City, but recently it's looked like Kansas City, everything's been a slugfest. So I'm not really sure if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I agree with that on the fact that they're just like Kansas City has been playing just all defense lately. Like that's just been like their big way of like keeping games close minus the Vegas games. So I think it'll be tough to end up like scoring a lot of points, like having a 3 touchdown game. I just don't see that in the realm of possibilities for Herbert this week. I will say on defense though, just so you know, over the past like 5 weeks, the better defense, the better team to play your defense again is Carolina.
Oh, really?
Carolina, yeah, Carolina has been giving up 10.5 points over the last 5 weeks, where Detroit has actually been only giving up 6.6. And they played some pretty decent defenses in there too. Like you have Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Chicago, Denver in there. Obviously, Minnesota's also in there, but like that's not like Detroit's been playing solid offense mostly because it's garbage time. It's the entire game for them.
Yeah, well, part of the thing with Detroit was like they were just dying for that win, and then once they got that win last week, it didn't look so good. So maybe,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. It's in Detroit, so maybe they have a better chance, and it's also in Buffalo, so that's not good for Carolina. But yeah, I mean, defenses are really difficult to predict. But I am going to lean towards the cat dog against Snowball.
I'm gonna go with Snowball to give his team to just be different and give Steven's team some confidence because even though some of his matchups aren't great and it's hard to see Herbert having a big touchdown game, um, Herbert has already shown that he has the ability to rush, and that rushing ability could give him a little baseline. And you slip in a little rushing touchdown right there. That's an extra 2 points on that touchdown. So
Yeah, then the one thing that's kind of cool too is Lamar Jackson being out doesn't really affect the Mark Andrews that much, considering how much of a beast he was last week. That's basically just their passing offense, I guess. But
Yeah, he's the target. He's the target man.
yeah, so we'll see how the playoffs go here and who's going to be playing Lestrange and Chris Gregg for a chance at the championship, and then what's going to happen for the first overall pick with
Yeah.
Beats and whether you can stay alive, which it looks likely, but we'll see. Um, all right, anything else you want to bring up?
Unless you want to just, I don't want to break down the matchups, but if you just want to scan over Dynasty and see what we think for the Dynasty
Yeah,
playoffs, we only have to look at the winners bracket because that league for teams that don't make it, it's a lottery. So
cool, cool. Are we in the playoffs?
yeah, because I messed up the scheduling and didn't set it up right. So
I don't see a bracket anywhere, but
yeah, brackets down in the standings area. If you scroll down here, oh, a little too far, right there. Nope, top of the records, standings, right there.
just these.
Well, it says you if you go over, there's the little bracket right there. Standings over in the corner.
Yeah, okay.
So
Hinty Lestrange, Herrera,
and
Chris Smart. Ooh.
yeah,
And Herrera's the top seed, I take it. Chris Smart, yeah.
yes.
And Herrera
So
just never just empties his lineup before ever setting anything, so you can never know what his actual point total is. But that'll be interesting to see. I gotta avoid being last place. That's my key here.
your goal.
Yeah, it's been a rough year, but me and Chris Gregg in the down in the doldrums with 4-10.
Hey,
It was so
I
even a
mean
couple weeks ago.
that 4 and 10 right there at the bottom. You finished with less points, so you do have the 40% chance at the first round pick. So
Let's go.
yeah,
Yeah, I still have $98 on my waiver. A lot of people have a lot of money on their waivers. Oh damn, you and Cat Dog are low. And Chris
yeah. I
Gregg's been.
mean, I know there's not going to be many waiver pickups during the season, so whenever I saw a person, I went really heavy on my budget. So
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and you were struggling for QBs in that for a little bit here. So
yeah,
despite having almost no QBs, you make it. And Justin Fields is looking good.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe we do a breakdown for the championships just because that'll be high stakes and less time.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like. I'm not even looking at like a breakdown, but I would like to go and make my predictions. I think me and Cat Dog will end up winning this week.
I'm definitely gonna ride with Cat Dog because he's been dominating all year. But
Yeah, that
and I'll
team
vote for
is.
you because Lestrange is dominating the other league. So let's go Hinty versus Cat Dog for a good final, and then me taking the consolation bracket.
Yeah,
All right, man. Anything else you want to bring up?
that's all.
All right, man. We'll see you
Oh,
guys next week.